Hey everybody, good morning. This is the rebroadcast of last Thursday's $1 Million Mistakes, Your House Payoff, or Paid Off the Math. I'm a financial guy. I'm not a technical guy. So when I clicked one of the buttons, it didn't have any sound for 40 minutes. So I was talking, nobody could hear me. So I'm going to do a rebroadcast here. Beautiful day today in June. There might be a little bit of background noise with the landscapers outside from next door. But that only lasts for a few minutes. So I'm not going to let that bother me, so hopefully it doesn't bother you also. So today, we're going to cover something that really got me kind of involved in this business, because I saw this module and saw that with using understanding cash flow, understanding how money works, and understanding what's really true about the leverage component of money can really change the financial outlook for you, your trajectory of your retirement, how you're saving prior to retirement or paying off debt when you're younger. All those things come down to one word, and that's leverage. Think about that other people's money thing that we hear all the time, OPM, other people, use other people's money. When you use other people's money, or you use it at a price point that's lower than what you can earn on that money, then you can create a spread. And you can do that with all different types of assets. You can do it with real estate, your own house. You can do it with in the stock market with a margin account. There's all different ways to use leverage. And most of these $1 Million Mistake episodes are about leverage and the opportunity cost of money. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about opportunity cost and how that's really, really important when it comes down to how much money you keep. So at any time, if you have any comments, just type them into the comment box, and I will try to answer them. And if I can't during it, I'll answer it after, absolutely. And I really want this to be as interactive as possible. If you're seeing the rebroadcast of this or the recording of it, go to our website. I'll put my website out right here. You can go there and you can use the contact me page, or my email address is david@paramountfinancialma.com. You can ask me a question there if you're watching the broadcast. But ask me a question. I'll help in any way I can as far as it relates to your financial future and your financial well-being. So let me ask you a question here. If you absolutely thought something was true and it turned out not to be true, when would you want to know the actual truth? Now, the obvious answer is as soon as possible. If you believe something that you're doing is right, and it may not be the correct thing or the right thing, wouldn't you want to know what the right thing was? And not from an opinion standpoint, but from an objective standpoint, the right thing to do. So this week and every week for 3 more weeks, I'm going to be doing one of the $1 Million Mistake episodes. Next week is called The Tax Train. Politics and taxation and how it can affect your financial future. I'll put that up at the end, but that's going to happen on June 16th, I believe, at 10 a.m. And as the blowers go by from the landscape company, I'll give them 1 second to do their thing, because it'll only take 1 second. Working from home, these are the things you have to deal with, I guess. So, all right. So I'm going to expose some truths in the next few weeks that may have been in your blind spot for a number of years. I just had this discussion with a really, really good client of mine, Joe, who's buying a retirement home. He retired early. He's done really well for himself. And he came back to me after I showed him this stuff personally, how valuable this information was, because he changed the way he was going to buy that retirement home. So week 1, your house, payoff or paid off, the math. In this episode, I'm going to show you a lesson that I saw years ago that really got me excited about entering this industry. At the end, I'll provide you with 3 major takeaways, no matter what position you're in right now with your house. Now, for people listening to me for the first time, I am not a mortgage person. I'm not a real estate broker. I don't write mortgages or anything. But I see the value and the leverage in an asset like the house and how misunderstood it could be. I have a financial business with a very unique approach, in that we specialize at Paramount Financial in finding money people and businesses are transferring away unknowingly and unnecessarily. Now, those 2 important words, unknowingly and unnecessarily, because if you knew you were doing it, you would stop doing it. And unnecessarily, you don't have to be transferring away money or making decisions that are going to cost you more based on how the flow of money actually works. So we believe, and our philosophy is that there's more to opportunity to serve our clients by first avoiding losses, educating them on these things, then by helping them find winning investments like your typical Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch. They what they're out there doing is just giving you advice on your investments, but not really on the cash flow, the taxation of your investments, Social Security, all the other things that come into play as you get older. So there's 5 major areas of wealth transfer. I told you we're going to do 4. There's 5 areas where people are potentially losing money in this unknowingly and unnecessary fashion. First is how they pay for their house and their mortgage. Taxation, how you plan for taxes. How you fund your retirement accounts, like through qualified plans, 401ks, IRAs. How you pay for children's education costs is a huge one. That one I'm not going to do. I might do that one separately down the road at some point. That's going to be the one we leave out. But number 5, or the 4th week, we're going to do how to pay for major capital purchases like cars, weddings, vacations, and actually funding your lifestyle, because that is, in essence, a major purchase. You're not earning any money. You're actually purchasing your lifestyle every month. So how do you do that in a way that you can create leverage? These are all considered major purchases. Okay, so climb aboard and buckle up for this one. I have to bring up my screen, which I thought I had done. And we're going to get going as soon as possible on the Mortgage Master, which again is going to show you 3 different components of how to pay for your house. This is not about mortgages, folks. This is how to pay for your house in a way that's going to create leverage for you and actually be a very, very useful and extremely powerful asset over the course of now and for the rest of your life. Just bring this up here. Okay, so I am going to share my screen, which is here, and I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to keep my mic on this time. Okay, we are live here. So first question, and feel free to put it right in the commentary box. I'm going to put the comments up so I can see. First question, true or false? A large down payment will save you more money over time than a small down payment. Is that true or false? I am going to answer these questions based on how people usually answer them. That's true. 2, a 15-year mortgage will save you more money over time than a 30-year mortgage. True or false? Let's assume it's true. Making extra principal payments saves you money. Is that true or false? 4, the interest rate on a mortgage is the main factor in determining the cost of a mortgage. True or false? And 5, you are more secure having your house paid off than financed 100%. So in other words, you're more secure having your house paid off, or you're more secure having it financed 100%. True or false? And I know you're probably all answering, well, but what if you do this? But I understand that. And we're going to address those things. And then I'm going to ask these questions again at the end, just to kind of reinforce and reiterate what we talked about. So moving forward, which is best? You know, there's all different types of mortgages out there. Again, we're getting into this upward trajectory or auction-like atmosphere for house buying. And where I live in the North Shore. We're about 25 miles or 20 miles north of Boston. In this area, it's just the appreciation has been going crazy, even during this whole COVID thing. So there's so many different mortgages out there, 15s, 30s. People get 15s to pay off their mortgages quicker, adjustable rate mortgage, but we've seen biweekly payments. Your house is probably the largest personal investment you will make, and how you decide to pay for it can create unnecessary wealth transfers. So we're going to talk about thinking about outside the box a little bit. I'm going to give you an idea that you had inside your box in a certain way of how to pay off your house. Quicker the better, typically the ideal out there. But I'm going to show you something that's going to expand the way you think about this. It's going to make your thinking outside the box now thinking inside the box. So there's 3 types of money. There's 2 you're going to be very familiar with. One I'm going to explain a little bit more about. The first 2 are lifestyle money and accumulated money. Lifestyle money is basically what defines you as a person. Where you go out to dinner, how often you go out to dinner. I know we haven't been doing that often, but we like to. How often you vacation, where you send your kids to school, where you live, how many houses you have. All your monthly expenses added up is your lifestyle money, because you pay those out every month, and that creates your lifestyle. Now, the second piece is accumulated money. Accumulated money is where you're saving money to fund that lifestyle later in life. So this is like your statement accounts. Could be your Fidelity account, could be your IRA, could be savings account, CDs, whatever it is that you're wherever it is that you're accumulating money goes into the top of this circle. Now, the third part of this circle is transferred money. Transferred money is the most unknown, misunderstood part of your financial circle. Transferred money is money that you're giving away or transferring away unknowingly and unnecessarily. And on this outside edge here, this upside down U, is all the places that we can lose money. So let's look at mortgages. So here you have a two mortgages, or two different houses. One is bigger than the other. I got to minimize this a little bit to bring up some notes that I wanted to make sure that I shared with you. Okay, going back. So let's take a look at the transfers that can occur in financing your house. One thing you notice that the house on the right is larger than the one on the left. The one on the left represents the house you live in. The one on the right is the one the lending institution is building with the interest they charged you to build yours. So in other words, the interest they're charging you for the mortgage. Obviously, one way to reduce the size of the house we build for the bank is to put more money down on the principal or to accelerate the principal payments. In other words, make more than we have to. As you'll see, both of these decisions may result in unnecessary wealth transfers. Most of us are aware that the interest you pay on your mortgage, if kept to maturity, could be more than the actual amount of the loan. We've seen that on that page when you're signing your mortgage. When we look at the amount of wealth transferred to the bank on this type of loan, you certainly want to do everything you can to reduce the amount of loss. Unfortunately, the way most people go about it actually begins the construction of even a third house. And the third house is the bank. The house is, well, the bank and the federal government. It's the beginning of years of one's mortgage that offer you the greatest tax deduction because monthly payments are mostly interest. So think about that. The beginning of your mortgage is the one that's going to give you the most tax deduction because the interest is the highest. If you pay on the principal of the mortgage during those years, you are reducing the amount of your interest deduction and thus increasing the amount of your tax liability because more of that money is going towards after-tax principal. Another thing to consider is the fact that, yes, you do save financing interest when you prepay your mortgage, but you lose investment interest as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about there on that topic. That's a pretty important piece of it. And I'll go as slow as I can without running over on time. There is one other little understood communicated concept to consider concerning the interest transfer to the bank. This concept is known as opportunity cost. So let me tell you a little bit about my rich aunt. Suppose you just purchased a house for $100,000 and you have to make your first payment. Your rich aunt, this is fictitious, of course, cashes in one of her jumbo CDs and wants to pay your mortgage off for you, which would be great. She wants to watch you enjoy the money while she's still alive. You decide that since you do not have to pay the monthly note on your house, that you're going to save that monthly amount. Okay, you're not paying the mortgage, you're saving it now, the same amount. At the end of 30 years, you would have had $264,155 if you had simply put that money under a mattress. But you know you wouldn't do that. You would invest the money. So you would invest that $100,000 to be able to get the highest interest rate you could. So if you invested that monthly payment on average of, hypothetically, this doesn't promise any returns, this Facebook Live, but if you invested it and earned 8%, at the end of 30 years, you would have $1,093,572. So if you invested that money versus putting it into the house, you best be able to sell that house after closing costs for $1,093,572, because if your money could have earned you more being invested than it could in the house, you've given up potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. $1 million mistake. So that $1 million is the actual cost to live in your $100,000 house and finance it for 30 years. What the interest could have earned had you not given away is known as the opportunity cost. Well, simply put, if you lost $20 out of your pocket, You not only lost that $20, you lost all the interest that $20 could have earned for you for the rest of your life. That's opportunity cost. If you make mortgage payments or multiple mortgage payments, which I know in some cases you absolutely have to, but just think about if you took that payment and you put it somewhere you made 5, 6, 7%. That's the opportunity of money. And to become wealthy and to stay wealthy is to understand that concept. Where is my money making the most money? Just remember that piece no matter in your everyday life. If you don't take away anything else from this today, where is my money making the most money? So that's opportunity cost. So of course, there's some tax deductions along the way, but you get the point. We're trying to create a spread here. We're trying to create you earning more money than you're paying. It costs a lot of money to live in a house. An interesting thing is that the lump sum compounded at 8% for 30 years would also produce that $1,093,000. Had your aunt just given you the money to invest, you would have potentially over $1 million in your pocket. So if she gave you that $100,000 instead of paying the mortgage, or gave it to you to invest, and you paid the mortgage, you would have created a spread between them, that 1.1 million minus what you would pay for the mortgage at interest. So we're going to transfer away some money. We can't do it 100%, but the idea is to limit the losses, avoid the losses. That's the biggest thing. So let's talk about mortgages more in depth. So let's say you finance a $500,000 home. That interest rate of right now, it's like 3.5% over 30 years. A 30-year loan, this is put more in relevant terms, at 3.5% would mean that you'd pay about $308,280 in interest on that loan. But if we could have used that money and invested it, the opportunity of that 500 grand at 6.5 is just about $2.5 million. So in this situation, you paid out about 808, but in this situation, you would have earned 2.4. You minus the 8.8, you're still up over $1.3 million, $1.4 million. Now, I understand some people don't have the money to purchase a loan. I mean, to buy a house cash, but I'm going to show you something that addresses that. Okay, so that's transferred money. So wealth transfers can occur no matter how you decide to pay for your house. If you finance, this is really, really important. You're going to pay the interest to the lending institution for the privilege of using their money. We all know how that works. But if you pay cash, if you took all that money, and I see this a lot with retirees, they sell their house that they've lived in for a number of years, take the proceeds and put 100% down on a new house to avoid the mortgage. And it can be a huge mistake. It can be a huge mistake because you can get your house or your cake and eat it too if you structure it correctly. See, if you pay cash, once you pay that cash, you save that interest you would have paid to the bank, right? But you lose the interest because that money that you paid to buy the house no longer earns interest. And I know you're probably saying, well, the house is going to appreciate. And I want to show you something about that. I use this in, well, it's not this screen yet, but I'll show you. I use it in one of my classes. So the first question here is, why should you have a mortgage? First of all, a lot of people don't have enough money to just plop down 100% on their house. The second one, to have a mortgage, is because you can get tax deductions. And as every year passes, our tax deductibility options are fading. But this is still on the books. Be able to deduct mortgage interest. And lastly, the biggest one is the potential benefit spread, the difference between what you're paying versus what you're earning. That's a huge piece, and you can have both. You can have both. So think about inflation too as a factor. So if you have a 30-year note, all right. So let's take an example. A loaf of bread back in 1950, I'm guessing, was probably like 25 cents. Maybe it wasn't even that much. A loaf of bread was like 25 cents. Now a loaf of bread's like $4.50, $5, depending on where you get it. But our income has gone up since then, right? So when we were buying 25-cent loaves of bread, our income wasn't nearly what it is now on average. So the beauty of a 30-year mortgage, a longer mortgage, is that your payment is going to stay the same while your income and your investments increase in value. So let's say you had a monthly house payment of $2,500. What is that $2,500 going to feel like in 10 years or 15 years from now? Now, if you watch this, the bottom, the auto step, this is the effect of inflation and how that new payment will make you feel, or will actually affect your finances. So in 15 years from now, after your income has increased, cost of living adjustments on Social Security, if you're still working, your income has increased, but your monthly mortgage payment has not increased. So what that means is you have more income. So the effect of that initial $2,500 payment has been degrading 3% every year. So in year 15, for example, it's only really affects you about $1,600 a month in today's dollars. I know it's kind of a confusing concept, but you think about inflation, you think about what you could have bought for how much, for what amount of money years ago and what those things cost now. Remember, a 30-year or even a 15, but a 30-year mortgage payment is going to benefit you because of inflation. So the bank is watching its equity grow just as you are, but you're not only paying the bank interest, you're also paying principal. You're giving away the opportunity of the principal and interest. So you're giving away the potential of the future growth of that money. So what is opportunity cost? We talked about, do you earn interest on your down payment? Big question. A lot of people want to plop down the biggest down payment they can so they have their monthly payments are lower. But once you do that, big question, is that down payment money accessible to you? Can you ever get it back unless you sell your house? And I know some people out there probably saying, well, you get a home equity line of credit. Yes, but you have to pay interest on that. You don't get tax deduction from that. Can you get that down payment back? The answer simply is no, you can't. If you can have access to some money, but in the case of a home equity line of credit, you have to apply and get approved. And usually they're only going to give you up to 80% of the value of that home if that's the proper program. So think about what that down payment would have been worth for you today if you were able to invest it. For instance, if you were able to put down 20%, and this is kind of my rule for down payments, put down the least amount down payment you can without causing PMI in your mortgage. You want to avoid PMI because that blows this all out of the water. So put down as much as you need to just to avoid PMI. That's probably the best way to put it. So let's look at the opportunity cost of a down payment. Let's say you put down 40 grand on a house and you could have earned 6.5% on that 40,000 and you held that house for 15 years. The opportunity cost of that 40,000, not 40 plus 25, the opportunity cost is $65,000 of that 40 at 7%. You would have earned $65,000 over the 40. So think about that. If the only question you would have at this point is, well, is my house earning more than 6.5%? Because if that was, and I would say, yeah, put as much down payment in your house as you can, as long as you can, one, access it, and you truly understand the net gain in your house, which we're going to talk about next. I think my computer would work. Here we go. Okay. Now this is the screen I use in my live events. I use this in my classes I teach. A 6-hour financial class at Endicott. Well, I haven't in the past few months because today is June 8th, 2020, and we're just starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel of this whole COVID thing, which hopefully everybody that's out there listening today is safe and healthy and ready to get back to the day-to-day. I'm telling you, I am. I'm filming from my home, hence the fact we have landscapers outside. They're gone now, but we're doing what we have to do. So let's say you have a house that's worth $600,000. And the original purchase price on that house was $350,000. And you bought the house, say, 12 years ago. I'm just making this stuff up. Over that 12 years, you put in about 65 grand. Okay, that's not that much. 60,000 over 12 years. Let me just do the math. 65,000 divided by 12. You put in about $5,400 a year. So it could be one upfit and some minor things. So say you did a bathroom over. So try to be realistic. I'm not trying to overstate the numbers, but 65,000, I think, is kind of fair. I can run any of these numbers for you if you want to reach out to me. So the current market value 600, original purchase was 350. You've had it for 12 years, and you put 65,000 in it. What is the rate of return on that? So you had a gain of 185,000 over 12 years. Remember, since we have a capital gains exemption for real estate or for your primary home, that you don't have to pay any tax on that. That's a true 3%. So if you invested that money over 350,000 over 12 years at 3%, you would have 600. So how does this return compare to inflation and other investment returns? But let's go back. There are costs, and this is a really, really important point to keep in mind. There are costs to own a home. When I say own a home, in other words, you don't have to actually live there, but you still have to pay these things to keep the house. What are those? So let me go back and okay, here we go. So what are those costs? So we get 65,000 over 12 years. Taxes. You have to pay taxes. I've been in my house since 2013, 7 years. Our taxes have gone up almost 40% since then. So let's say on a $600,000 home, you are paying $7,000 a year in taxes, but you weren't always paying. Let's say you started 12 years ago paying $3,500. So if we split the difference, $3,500, let's say, so $4,300 a year. Let's say $4,300 a year in taxes for 12 years is $51,600 in taxes. What other costs are there to own a home? Insurance. You need to pay insurance, especially if you have a mortgage, because they'll take your house if you don't have insurance. We can keep this simple, maybe $1,500 a year for insurance. I'll even interpolate that to $1,250 a year because of inflation. That means you paid $15,000 over 12 years in insurance. Now, lastly, this is a concept that really I think it needs to be understood because it's essential. Now, to actually realize 100% equity in your house, in other words, have 100% of the equity converted to cash, how can that happen? 100% equity. The only way to do that is to sell your house. You can get home equity line of credit, but first of all, it's not your money. Secondly, they're not going to give you 100% equity line of credit on any property because they want to have skin in the game. So let's just assume 80%. But if you really wanted 100%, the only thing to do for that house is to sell it. So there are costs to sell. And, there's realtors charge anywhere from 3% to 6%. I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to go 4.5% to sell that $600,000 house. It's going to take $27,000 to sell it. So you've exited that investment, right? You've exited that investment. Now, the only thing I'm going to leave out, and I'm not going to put this in here, is the interest you paid on the mortgage. You got to deduct that. It's not a dollar for dollar deduction. I'm not going to do the calculation now because it'd just be confusing. Just keep in mind that there's still some other costs to own that home if you have a mortgage, and that is interest on the mortgage. But I'm not going to calculate that piece. So now what is the rate of return on that asset? So now that 3% average rate of return has gone down to 1%. If I went to any new client of mine or any existing client of mine, they said, I have a great investment for you. It's going to pay you 1%. I can't even guarantee that. Would you invest in that? Now, granted, your house is a place for you to give you shelter, but you can have that shelter and also have the financial. You can also have the financial upside, the positives of using that money correctly as leverage. Okay, so really all a house does is park money for you and really doesn't make any money for you. So does that answer the question for you? How much money should you be pushing into that asset? Remember, think about it as any investment. If you're going to invest, are you looking for that 1% rate of return, or would you look for more while your house is still appreciating? So you can have both. So we think about an investment, that $350,000 investment at 6.5 over 30 years would mean that you should have earned $2.4 million in that investment. Now, let's talk about the spread between having the mortgage and the investment. So if you have a $350,000 mortgage at a loan rate of 3.5% over 30 years, the sum of principal and interest over the 30 years is going to be $565,000. The opportunity cost of those mortgage payments is going to be $1.7 million. So we see we have a spread here, about $700,000, just about $700,000. But something interesting on the loan rate, and this is going to address the interest that you can write off on your taxes. Let's say you're in a 30% tax bracket, 22% for federal, and let's say 28, and 6% for state. You're going to be able to write off your mortgage interest on your income. So that really, the net cost to borrow is not 3.5, it's 2.52, because you can write off the interest on your taxes. So what that means is now we've created a larger spread here, almost $1 million. So should you put a lump sum down on a mortgage? I wouldn't, because that's really what's going to cost you when you could earn that much. So think about this. You could actually, if you invested more in an outside investment or a side fund versus putting it into your mortgage, you could essentially write a check at any time to pay off that house, but still keep control of your money. And that's a big thing. Liquidity, use, and control. Those three most important words in our firm. So why have a 15 over 30? Most people think that the interest they will save by paying off their mortgage early is a deciding factor, or a significant one. And it is pretty significant between the two. But the perception is the shorter the loan reduces the cost of the loan. So what is the shortest amount of time for you to be able to purchase a house? That is a lump sum, 100% down payment. So that would mean, based on that logic, the shortest loan you can have is to write a check and pay off the whole house. You would save all that interest if you just paid cash for the house, right? Because 30, if that's not the best option, 15, if that's not the best option, the number one is, I saw Mike Strauss just popped up here. I'll tell you later, Mike. That's great. The logic is that the quicker you pay for it, the better, because you'll save amount of money. So I want to show you this screen is a pretty powerful one and pretty simple to understand. Let's take a loan amount of $500,000 at 3.5%. Now you could get a 15-year mortgage at the same loan rate now, and I'll show you the difference between a lower rate and a 15, and pay $3,574 a month. Or you could take a 30-year loan and pay $2,245 a month. Now remember, once you sign on the dotted line, you're obligated to that payment, whichever one it is. You're obligated, right? So if you have a bad month and you're in a 15, you're obligated to pay $3,500. So that in itself is kind of a iffy subject for me, because I would be like, what if you had a medical situation and you couldn't work, but then again, you couldn't afford your house, you couldn't rewrite the loan, right? It would be very difficult to rewrite the loan without that income that you had. So remember, obligating yourself to a 15 over 30 at a higher payment is risky. If you are totally dead set on paying your house quickly, get the longest loan term you can, and then just make extra payments. Not the best way to do it, but if you're dead set on doing it that way, just avoid the 15 and don't obligate yourself to a higher payment. So getting back on track, the monthly difference between a 15 and a 30 is down here at $1,329. Now, if your thought was, I'll pay off my house quickly and then start saving the money, I'll start saving that $3,574 a month because my house will be paid off quick. I want you to look at this. Since the 15-year mortgage is paid off in 15, you have the monthly payment of $3,574 to invest each month for the last 15 years of that 30-year time frame in comparison to that other mortgage, 30-year. So at 4%, that $3,574 would equal $844,584. But if you took the monthly difference between the 15 and the 30, that 1,300, and invested it every month at the same rate of return of 4%, lo and behold, at the end of 30 years, you'd have the same exact amount of money. The same exact amount of money. So keep that in mind. This is about controlling the amount of money that goes out every month and what you're obligated to pay out every month and how much of that money you keep control of. So let's say that you're able to put that money somewhere where it's going to earn 6.5%. Let's say it defaults up to 7. See, even at that situation, if you were paying 3.5% on a 15-year, I'm sorry, on a 30-year, and then investing the difference and earning 7%, it's almost a $300,000 difference. So you see how you're creating that spread, that leverage here. So you don't have to just to plow all the money right into that asset. Once you understand your house as an asset, you can have the best of 3 worlds if you use that asset correctly as a leverage component. So we'll compare 2 mortgages here, one for 30 years and one for 15. I'm going to make this more realistic for today's market. So if you get a 30, you're going to pay a little bit more in interest. You get a 15, they dangle that carrot and lower the interest rate. And let's say our side fund is at 6.5%. Your tax bracket's 28. What do the 2 look like? So what this is going to show you is if you said, hey, Dave, I get it, but I just don't want a mortgage payment for long. I want to pay off that house in 15 years. And I say, I completely understand. So if all we would need to do, if you took out the 30, invested the difference, is earn 3.54% rate of return. And you could actually stroke a check at year 15 and pay off the balance of your house, all while keeping control of that money up until that point. So you don't have to go to the bank and apply for it, which is a big thing. Control your money, folks. Keep control of your money. So remember that. That's all we need is 3.5% rate of return. But what if you dead set, you said, I want to pay my house off in 15 years. I said, that's great. Think about it this way. Let's pay off your house sooner than 15 years. So if you're able to invest the difference between the 15 and the 30-year mortgage and earn 7%, you could actually stroke a check and pay off that house in 13 years and 6 months, 18 months sooner than a 15-year, by controlling the money and putting it in a place that's going to earn more for you than your house can. A house is not a bad thing. It's a great thing if you understand how it leverages. I mean, it's a really, really high leverage piece of investment vehicle, which you could completely take advantage of. So remember that. Take out the longest term so you don't have a strain on your cash flow if there's a strain on your lifestyle, like a disability or something like that. And keep control of your money for as long as you at year 15 you want to stroke that check, stroke the check. If you're year 15, you say, I'm not going to pay off the house now. I'm going to invest here or there. You have that option. You don't have to go to the bank and ask them for your money. So as we're wrapping up, I just want to show you the tax savings between a 15 and a 30. So over 15 years, at the end of 15 years, in a 15-year mortgage, you're going to save $32,214 in taxes. At the end of year 15 in a 30-year mortgage, you're going to save $61,099 in taxes. So there's a significant tax savings from a 30 to a 15. Over 30 years, you'll save $86,000 in taxes, as opposed to 32. The 15 stays at 32. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. I'm going to go back to the quiz, and I just want you to remember these questions. Now, how would you answer these? Think about that. I have seen things turn around 180% for folks in their retirement plans by leveraging the home correctly. We did a thing a couple weeks ago about using a home equity conversion. So you could put 50% down on a new home. You have to qualify. You have to be, someone in the house has to be 62 years old, but 50% to 55% down on your home and never have a mortgage payment. That's a great leverage play there. So think about these questions. And when you think about your next house, think about now, all right, maybe you should reconsider certain things. And by all means, give me a shout. I'm going to unshare my screen. Yes, by all means, give me a shout at any time, and I will answer any questions for you that you might have. Again, you're probably going to see the replay now, and I'll answer the questions. Just go to my my website and ask me anything you want. So next week on June 16th at 10 a.m. on $1 Million Mistakes, we're going to talk about taxes and really what's going on behind the scenes in taxes and my opinion on how things are broken when it comes to our tax code and the incentives of politicians. This is bipartisan, not left, not right, just math. The politics of taxation and your financial future. It's a big one. Hopefully these $1 Million Mistakes are going to add up to $1 million in savings for you, just like I hopefully planned on this episode. But again, any questions whatsoever, we are at Paramount Financial MA, which is right here. I'll show you that one. If you want to go, you can download your free guide here at Paramount Financial. Will your money last as long as you do? We have that. We can also do a complete risk assessment on your portfolio, which is the link here. Riskalyze 123 at Bitly. You can go in and you can see if your investment tolerance fits your investment risk emotionally, for lack of a better term. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I think I've gone long enough, 40 minutes. I think that's plenty for now. Again, our number also is 978-406-9137, 978-406-9137. If nothing else, just take a look at our page. Click the button, and we post things all the time, and you won't miss any one of our episodes coming up. All right? Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye now.